Okay, everyone, I think we'll get started. My name is Jessica Elfie, and I'm the Administrative Coordinator for Professional Development Programs at the Graduate School. So welcome, everyone. And then I'd like to introduce to you Mary Easton from Career Services, and she will tell you a little bit more about herself. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Jessica. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Easton. As Jessica said, I use she, her pronouns. And I'm here today to talk to you all about LinkedIn. So some best practices, why LinkedIn is important, how you can use it. I am actually in graduate school myself, so I'm currently in your shoes experiencing, I think, many of the same stressors you all are probably experiencing in terms of exploring different job opportunities, wanting to reach out and start applying to jobs. So I'm here at Loyola as part of an internship. I actually go to Adler University in the LUC. But it was actually really fun to put this presentation together because I kind of got to explore how I might use it, which I think will be helpful to you. And I'll share some of the insights that I came across as I was doing this research and putting this together. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And my vision for this presentation really is that it's interactive, conversational. I would love for you all to participate in any way that you can. I'll give you opportunities to ask questions throughout so that you're not having to wait till the end and remember what it is that you wanted to ask. I also have a few QR codes that I've included in the presentation. So if you have your phone handy and are able to scan those, that's awesome. If you don't have a phone or the QR code for some reason is not working, I'm also going to be putting the links in the chat. So you might want to monitor the chat as well. And then if you have any other troubles accessing anything, please feel free to let me know, put something in the chat, raise your hand. And with that, we will get started. So I first want to talk a little bit about why LinkedIn is important. And I'm curious what you all think when you hear the word LinkedIn, because I know that when I originally, before I had, started using LinkedIn, I thought of it kind of as this professional Facebook. And that was my understanding of what LinkedIn is. And so I'm curious, as of right now, what do you all know about LinkedIn and what comes to mind when you hear people talking about LinkedIn? You can put it in the chat, you can unmute, whatever feels most comfortable to you.
I think of networking.
Networking, thank you, Danny. It's probably the function that LinkedIn is most well known for. Professional Facebook as well. Yeah, I think that's a pretty standard perception. Thank you, Kenzie. Anything else that comes to mind as you think of LinkedIn? Pretty much just those two things, networking, professional Facebook. Well, it turns out LinkedIn has a lot of really beneficial tools. There are a lot of ways that you can use it to support not only your networking, your connection to various professionals, but also just your career exploration and development in general. And so LinkedIn is a really important piece to expanding on your professional narrative. So if you think of, I like to think of resumes as a narrative of the experiences that you've had, maybe the skills that you bring to the table when you're applying to jobs. And it's a very limited version of that narrative. It's maybe the advertisement or the movie trailer preview to who you are as a professional. LinkedIn is a platform where you can expand on that narrative. You can include more experiences that you've had. You can include various skills that you've gained, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that will look like and how you might showcase those later on. You have a picture, you have a summary. All these things contribute and add to the narrative that you're putting out there. And it's important to have this narrative because employers will look for this narrative. People, employers, future companies will search for you on LinkedIn, whether or not you've included the link, your LinkedIn link on your resume, because they're trying to figure out who you are as a professional. And so it's really important to have a LinkedIn profile to have something that is put together and neat so that when professionals do look for you, it's out there. And then, like I said, beyond controlling this personal professional narrative of who you are as a job applicant or as an employee, LinkedIn is a great platform and tool for expanding your network. So making connections, joining groups, following organizations, and then even identifying different people you might want to conduct informational interviews with. And we throw around the term informational interviews in the career services department, and that's essentially just a fancy way of saying these are opportunities where you get to meet up with and engage with professionals and learn more about their story, what they're doing. And it's a way to add to the knowledge that you have about various career pathways, various organizations, various jobs, and can be a great tool as you continue doing your career research. In addition to identifying these informational interviews and potential people you might want to connect with, you can also research content on LinkedIn. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that would look like. I've taken a few screen grabs from my own LinkedIn to show you different ways that you can navigate that search process on LinkedIn, but you can look at, career paths. So what are some steps that you might need to take in order to get this specific job or position? What are even the specific job or position descriptions? So there's a job board on LinkedIn, and so you can learn more about what skills or requirements might be necessary to do a certain thing. You can also find out more information about organizations. Many organizations will have LinkedIn pages that you can go to and learn more about who's interacting with that organization, maybe some of the current initiatives that they're engaged in. And so it's a great place, like I said, to just find information. It's also a great place to look for jobs. I think many people don't know that you can use LinkedIn as a job search board. Many people know about Indeed, many people know about Handshake, but LinkedIn also has a page where you can search for jobs directly and even tailor your search to the specific skills that you have based on what you've uploaded to your profile. So like I said, many benefits, many facets to LinkedIn. And I'm gonna start by really exploring this idea of creating a profile, because that's essentially the first step, right? As you're engaging with LinkedIn, is creating this professional narrative, this personal profile. And so these are a few tips to consider as you're creating your profile. Obviously, there are more things that you can consider, but these I've chosen, 4 things that I feel are perhaps most important to creating the strongest profile you possibly can. First tip, really simple, choose the right profile picture. You want to make sure your profile picture is recent. You want to make sure that your face fills about 60% of the frame. Some people will have profile pictures that are pretty zoomed out, but then employers can't see what you look like. And so if they've looked at your LinkedIn profile and you're showing up for an interview, there can be a disconnect. And so it's important that employers and companies and other professional connections are able to kind of see your face. You're going to want to wear work clothes in your profile picture. So whatever that work dress code or norm is in the industry that you are interested in going into, I recommend dressing like that. So for this person, it looks like he's wearing a collared shirt because that's probably the norm in his place of work. I've seen, because I also work with athletes, I've seen professionals who work with athletes wear sports clothes because that's the norm, that's the dress code in that industry. And then finally, smile. You want that profile picture to be engaging. You want to create a warm presence that's going to draw people and professionals to continue looking at your profile. A frown can be rather off-putting, and so it's important to have a picture that showcases who you are so that you're seen clearly and seen as inviting. The second field that you're going to fill out as you're creating your profile is a headline. And many people think of a headline as just simply stating your work title, but a headline can be so much more than that. A headline's purpose is to, it's how recruiters and potential employers find you, how potential connections find you. And so when you're doing this search, and you'll see this as you conduct your own searches of people, that as people come up, potential connections come up. You see their name, you see their picture, and you see their headline. And so this is just at first glance, a way for people to know a little bit more about who you are and what you do. And so it's really short. You don't have too many characters, but it's enough room to add a little bit more than just your job title. So some other factors or bits of information that you could consider adding to this headline would be saying a little bit more about who you are, maybe your role, saying something about what motivates you as a professional, and then trying to use those words to grab people's attention. So something that's engaging, something that maybe leaves them wanting to know more. And that's what's going to be most encouraging to them to continue digging through that profile. So you'll see in this example that I have on the screen, Mr. Brent says that he helps purpose-driven Hoosiers grow their career path with the Indiana state government, no matter what that career path is. And so we see that he's working in this career advising field, specifically for the Indiana state government, and he's open to working with people from a variety of different career backgrounds. And so just through those simple words, we already know a little bit more about what he does. And then once we click on his profile, can continue learning about who he is. Any questions so far about these first few tips about creating a strong profile? So the next tips I want to share with you are talking about summary and skills. So as you continue looking at your LinkedIn profile, there's a summary section. And I know that it can be very tempting to just skip over the summary section. Sometimes thinking about writing about yourself, especially in paragraph form, can seem a little daunting. But the summary section is so vitally important to your profile because it's essentially, after people have seen your headline, it's a more thorough introduction to your professional narrative. And so it's a way that you can create this personal connection between your professional experience and who you are as a person. And so you can include so many different things in that summary section. You can include, achievements. Maybe you include hobbies that relate to who you are. It's a way to contextualize career choices. And because there are so many different ways that you can create and approach this summary section, I've actually included a QR code here to an article that has 14 very different but equally effective LinkedIn summaries for you to look at. And so I'd recommend taking a look at that. I'm also gonna post this link in the chat here. Because these professionals have each, like I said, taken very different approaches to this summary section, but each are engaging and unique to who that person is. And so if you're looking for ideas as you're creating your summary section, this could be a great place to start as you just gather ideas. I will say another kind of skill or tip for knowing what to maybe add in your summary section, even what to add in your headline section, is to look at other profiles of professionals in your field of interest. So let's say you're going into environmental science, you're interested in what other environmental scientists are saying about themselves on their LinkedIn profiles. You can look up, people in environmental science through the search bar, and then click on their profiles and see what they're saying. What words are they using? What vocabulary seems to be thematic across these profiles? And then use those words, use that vocabulary to create your own profile, to create your own narrative in a way that feels like it fits and feels right to you. Another And the kind of fourth and final piece of the profile that I want to point out is your skills section. So on your LinkedIn, you have a section where you can list your experiences. And these would be what you would put under the experience section of your resume. So any previous jobs, maybe volunteer opportunities, and you kind of manually fill it out and you list the company that you were at, you list your job title, you can say a little bit more about what that job looked like, maybe some skills that you used. And so that's an important piece to add. And there's also a skills section. And so this is a section where you can actually take skills assessments and tests and earn verified skills badges on your profile. And so this is a way to demonstrate not only have you used this skill, but through this assessment, your proficiency has been verified. And there are so many different assessments out there. I would recommend just kind of scrolling through to see if there's anything that feels right to you. I will say displaying the results of those skills assessments is completely voluntary. So you can take the skills assessment just to see if you would pass, and you don't have to display how you did. They are pass-fail. So you either get the badge or you don't. There's no like scaled grading. Also, if you don't pass the assessment test, that's not advertised on your profile. So does not need to be this fear of taking the assessment, not passing, and then having that mark on your profile. You can, if you don't pass, you have the opportunity to retake the assessment again if that's something that you want to learn more about, and you feel like it's a skill that would be important to the field you're going into. And then once you are able to pass, you can add that badge to your profile, and employers' connections can see the skills that you currently have and are displaying. Any other questions about creating a profile and assessments? Danny?
Yeah, Mary, I have a question. Can you speak more about like textualizing career choices? Like I assume you mean like sort of providing what drove you to these career choices, right? But how do you like say that short of being like, I chose this career for this or whatever?
Sure, that's a great question. So how might you phrase, it sounds like, the career choices that you've made in the summary section? So I will say this article has great examples of that. And for example, I was kinesiology undergrad, and I'm no longer doing anything related to kinesiology. I'm doing mental health counseling. And so something I might say in the summary is, attended the University of Virginia, majored in kinesiology, and through that experience discovered that I really cared about the mental health of the athletes that I was working with. And this drove me to pursue a career in the mental health field. And without explaining that transition, without explaining maybe the experiences that I had to lead to that desire, employers really don't know. They see kinesiology and then they see mental health, and there's almost this disconnect. And so that summary section can be a great opportunity to say, I had these experiences. This is what I learned about myself. This is how my values changed. And this is why I'm now pursuing this field. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay. And that's just one way to do it, right?
Right.
Many different ways you could approach exploring that story. But that is one example of how you can contextualize career choices. Thanks for that, Danny. Any other questions or thoughts at this point? Okay, I'll go ahead and move on, and if stuff comes up, feel free to throw it in the chat or raise your hand. So I wanted, in like finishing up talking about creating this profile, I wanted to kind of go over a list of maybe some do's and don'ts. So we're going to start with the don'ts. So what are some things that you might want to avoid as you're creating your profile page? First thing is, don't clutter your page with irrelevant information. LinkedIn is a platform for your professional experience. And while sometimes your professional experience includes personal anecdotes, kind of like the one I just told, it's not a place where you're going to include or where you might want to be posting stuff you'd also post on Instagram or Facebook. This isn't a place to share the cat memes. I'm sure you all already know that, but it's something that I just wanted to point out. So try to keep the information on your LinkedIn as professional as possible. Also, don't use slang or cutesy language. You want to make sure that you're coming across, again, as professional. And so sometimes that slang and various colloquial terms can inhibit that, that professional face. Also, don't be expected to be recruited as a passive user. So many people will create their profiles and then not really engage with LinkedIn and expect to be recruited for various positions. And I will say that if you create a profile, there are recruiters who might reach out to you, even if you haven't engaged in content. And often, these people who are reaching out aren't going to be as closely related to your field of interest because you haven't been engaging with the organizations, the job fields that are more related to what you might want to be doing. So as you're engaged, some different ways that you can engage in LinkedIn is by liking posts, by celebrating people's accomplishments, your connections' accomplishments, by following groups, following organizations. And so this all kind of helps your LinkedIn algorithm so that recruiters can find you and recruiters that are relevant to your fields of interest can find you. And so the more you engage, not only the more you're able to learn, the more connections you're able to make, but the easier it is for people, other people outside of your network to find you and people related more closely to your interests. Also, do not list a career history that's different from your resume. Everything that is on your resume should also be on your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile can include more information than what's listed on your resume, but you want to make sure that your professional materials are consistent. And so if you have jobs that are on your resume, if you have skills that are on your resume, these should absolutely also be listed on your LinkedIn. Also, don't forget to list those accomplishments. These are things that you've accomplished, whether it's specific scholarships, specific certifications. LinkedIn, your profile is absolutely the place to advertise those so that employers can see a better picture, a more well-rounded picture of who you are and the skills that you bring. Finally, don't be afraid to ask for endorsements. So underneath the skills section, you might notice there's a section for potential endorsements. As you become a more seasoned professional, as you've spent time honing specific skills, you can reach out to your connections and ask for them to endorse your work. Whether it's, for example, maybe you are a writer and you have other fellow writers that you're connected with on LinkedIn who you've attended writing workshops with or who have read your work, you can reach out to these people and ask them to endorse your skills as a writer. And that is absolutely acceptable and encouraged as a feature of LinkedIn. I will say that these endorsements aren't make or break. It's not absolutely necessary to have endorsements in order to get jobs on LinkedIn, but it can be helpful. It's just another way, another layer to help verify who you are as an applicant. It's not just saying you're skilled at something, but it's showing that you're skilled at something and getting that feedback from other people, also corroborating what you're saying you're skilled at. Which brings us to the do's. What are some things that are good to do on LinkedIn? Along the lines of decluttering your page, you want to keep your page updated. So make sure that the information on there is up to date, that you have your most recent place of employment, that you have a recent picture, so that people are interacting with a profile that most closely matches where you are and who you are right now. Also, like I said before, borrow vocabulary that you find compelling. Look at other people's pages, see what they're saying. And if that vocabulary feels like a good fit to you, absolutely take it and use it. It's great to be able to share that inspiration among the LinkedIn community. Again, create and engage with content. Don't be a passive user. Go ahead and like those posts, reach out to people, establish connections, join groups, follow organizations. This is going to really enhance your experience on LinkedIn. Follow companies, and I'll talk a little bit more about what this might look like in a minute. But you can, like I said, search for different companies on LinkedIn, follow them, get up-to-date information, maybe about what they're doing, who's engaging with them, and can be a really helpful way not only to connect with those companies, but also to gather information. Join relevant personal interest groups. So you can find interest groups. I think I'm a part of a mental health interest group. I'm a part of an interest group focused on work-life balance because that's something that's important to me. So you can find different interest groups that align with different professional interests or characteristics and join them and see what other people are doing and saying about these topics. Finally, something I want to point out is personalizing your URL. So when you create a LinkedIn account, if you haven't already done so, it auto-populates, auto-generates a URL for you. And this is the URL that you're going to be using on your resume that you include in that contact information at the top of your document. And when LinkedIn auto-generates it, it's usually just like a combination of letters and numbers. So go there, make sure that your name is in the URL because it's going to be much more easy for employers to then access your profile because they can just type in your name and it'll be, for example, mine I think is Mary_Easton at LinkedIn.com. And so it creates it, not only does it make it look more polished and professional because you've taken the time to personalize your URL, but it also just makes your profile easier to access. Any thoughts or questions about these do's and don'ts? Okay, awesome. This brings us to LinkedIn networking. So once you've created your profile, once you started engaging in content and seeing who else might be on LinkedIn that you'd be interested in connecting with, once you've identified various organizations and professions that maybe you're interested in learning about, like we said, I think the main feature that LinkedIn is known for is as a networking platform. And before we dig into what it might look like to network on LinkedIn, I'm curious what you all think about and know about networking in general. So when you hear networking, what comes to mind for you? And again, you can type it in the chat, you can talk out loud, whatever it feels right. Connecting, absolutely. Well, LinkedIn phrases it like that too, right? It's making connections. What else comes to mind for you all when you think about networking? Building relationships. Yeah, I really like that. Putting yourself out there for others to see. Absolutely. You're engaging with the community. Awesome. Learning about career paths. Absolutely. Networking is a great way to gather information. And I think that kind of comes down to one of the main purposes of networking. It's to learn about other professionals, to learn about their experiences, to learn about different career paths that you could potentially take in order to reach your career goals. And so networking is essentially reaching out to professionals, reaching out to different people, creating relationships, creating those points of connection so that you can learn and grow as a professional. And so LinkedIn allows you to network in a few different ways. So you can actually reach out to and talk with your first degree connections. So with a basic LinkedIn profile, premium is a little bit different, but the basic features of this like preliminary profile that you don't have to pay for, you can message your first degree connections directly. And so these first degree connections, it's like Facebook friends. So you've reached out to someone, you've connected with them, they've decided and agreed to connect with you. And so you're mutually connected on LinkedIn. You'll also have, you may notice as you're looking at people on LinkedIn, what they call second degree connections. And these connections are essentially like mutual friends on Facebook. So they're going to be people who are connected to your network. And then there are what LinkedIn calls third degree connections. And that's just a degree removed. So they are going to be connections of the connections of your first degree connections. A little complicated, but that's how LinkedIn works. And so one way you can conduct networking is by and conduct maybe some of these informational interviews with identified professionals is by messaging these first degree connections directly. With the basic subscription to LinkedIn, you actually cannot message second degree or third degree connections directly. And so with second and third degree connections, you might want to request to connect. And when you request to connect with these people, it's really important to send a note, just saying a little bit about maybe how you found them and why you're wanting to connect. This is going to make it much more likely that they agree to connect with you if they know a little bit more about why you're asking to connect. Some professionals I've noticed will connect with anybody who asks. Many professionals won't connect with someone unless they know them or they've personally reached out. And so that's why it's really important that when you're asking to connect with people, you're sending a note. And like I said, with that basic LinkedIn subscription, once you've connected with those people, then you can message them directly and do some more informational interviews and gather information. With LinkedIn Premium, you can actually message anyone and you can see who's been viewing your profile. I recently got LinkedIn Premium just to test out those features specifically for this presentation. And you can do, LinkedIn offers a 1 month free trial. So that's what I signed up for. And so I was able to go and search for people and then message them directly through what they call InMail. So it's a little bit different than direct messaging. It's like an inbox for LinkedIn. And reach out to people that way. And so that was a way to reach out without connecting. I will say I found connecting with people first much more successful in terms of like legitimately connecting with that person. So I could send an email to someone I didn't know and they were less likely to respond than someone I'd already connected with. So something to keep in mind, your experience might be different, but that's what happened for me. I will say too, I recently found out that Amazon Prime, if you have the Amazon Prime student account, they offer up to 6 months of free LinkedIn Premium. So something to consider if that's a subscription that you have. You can also, I know we talked a little bit about joining potentially groups. You can message group members directly once you've joined. So with the basic subscription. So even if you're not directly connected to someone, but you are in the same group, you can message those people directly as well. Again, a great way to network is by following companies and looking for identifying people related to that company to reach out to. You can also search for Loyola alumni on LinkedIn. And connect with those people that way. I wanted to share with you along these lines of networking too, potentially what you might say as you reach out to these people. So when you want to connect with someone and you're sending a connection note, what might that sound like? So you only have 300 characters to work with. So you usually want to keep it pretty short and to the point. You'll want to use their name. And then say something along the lines of, hi, I'm looking to expand my network with fellow business owners, for example, and professionals. I'd love to learn more about what you do and see if there's any way we can support each other. Or maybe in this second example, you've been following this person for a while. It's somebody who is well known in the field that you're interested in. Maybe you say, came across your profile and I saw the work that you're doing. I'm reaching out to connect with like-minded people, or I've been following your work and I would love to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing. These are all different examples of ways that you might reach out to people you're interested in connecting with. Then, once you have connected with these people, like I said, you can direct message them. And so here I wanted to provide some examples of what those direct messages might look like. So let's say that there's a professional you're interested in talking to, you've been able to connect with them, and you want to send them a message to see if you can conduct an informational interview with this person. See if you can meet up with them and learn more about what they do. So for example, you might say, "Dear Erin, I'm a graduate student interested in working in marketing. I've completed 2 marketing-related internships and have developed communications and leadership skills working with student organizations. For the last year, I've been following your work for Bryan and Associates, and it's really impressed me. I would love the opportunity to learn more about your experience and perspectives on the industry. Can we meet via Zoom for 20 to 30 minutes? This is an example of a message that you send. What makes it effective is that this person introduced themselves. They said a little bit more about what they're currently doing, what they have done, which shows why they're interested in pursuing an interview with this person. And then it simply asks, are you willing? Would you be willing to meet with me? Sometimes, and I know that it can be really scary to send out these messages, especially to people you don't know, but worst case scenario, they just don't respond. Nothing's going to happen to you. It says nothing about who you are or your skills as a professional. But then every now and then somebody might respond. And so you never know. And that's why I always encourage people, definitely reach out, take that step. It's worth it, especially if you want to learn more. Another outreach example could be maybe you've discovered a Loyola alum. And so I like this example because it's a little bit more personalized. It's professional, but also relaxed, and draws on that Loyola connection. So this person says, "Dear Steve, I see that you're an LUC alum. I'm a political science major and would be excited to hear more about your work in WDC. I'll be in your area for a few weeks for vacation. If you have any free time, I'd love to meet up for coffee. Thank you so much. P.S. Did you see Saturday's game against Drake? So tense." And so this one highlights that school connection for this person. And it's a professional way to reach out to someone who's also been to Loyola and whom you might want to learn more from. Are there any thoughts at this point about making connections, about networking, about reaching out via LinkedIn? All right, well then we'll go ahead and move on to talking about career exploration. So like I said, people know LinkedIn for networking, and LinkedIn can be a great opportunity to conduct career exploration. One way you can do this is by using the search bar found on the homepage of LinkedIn. So when you log into your account, you're going to have your newsfeed, you're going to have a little snippet of your profile to the left, and in that left top corner is a search bar. And so you can type in keywords, phrases, whatever you might want to do in the search bar. So for example, you'll see in this search bar, I've typed in environmental science. And then once you've typed in that keyword, you can filter the results using these filters at the top. So there are going to be a few select filters. And then I also want to point out there's another button all the way over to the right called all filters. And if you click on that, there are so many other choices of filters. You can filter by location, you can filter by connections. So maybe you want to look through your network and see who in your network is related to environmental science. So many filters, definitely worth playing around with. You can also filter your results by using this left-hand menu. So as you can see, you can look for jobs, you can look for people, you can look for groups. LinkedIn even has hashtags, which is something I'll talk about here in a minute. You can look for posts that mention environmental science, events that are held. And these are all ways that you can kind of navigate your career interests and explore to see what's out there. One way to hone that exploration, like I said, is by looking at companies. So as you see, I've typed in environmental science in this search bar, and then I filtered for companies specifically that are engaged in business consulting and services. And so in this search, I'm looking specifically for companies that consult for businesses on environmental and sustainability issues. And this has populated a variety of different companies that do that. I can follow these companies, I can click on these companies and learn more about them. And it's a great way to get an idea of who is out there in the field doing these things and what are they doing? What are some of the tasks that they're completing? What are some of the initiatives that they're going for? An example of a company page, as you can see here, is Loyola University. So this is just the general Loyola University homepage. You can see we also have pages for the School of Law. We also have pages for Quinlan. But on the Loyola homepage, not only does it have like the general news feed, the posts about what Loyola is doing and different events and activities that they are putting on, but on Loyola's homepage, you can also search for alumni, and you can search by typing in key titles. You can search by graduation year. You can search by industry. So for example, if you wanted to look for a Loyola alum who is also working in the environmental science field, you could type in environmental science and do a search and see who previously went to Loyola and is currently a professional in this field. And it's a great way to make connections, to identify professionals that you might want to talk to, and to learn more about, what your fellow classmates have and are doing. And so this is a page I would definitely recommend following. The other thing that I mentioned earlier is following hashtags. So in addition to following companies, you can follow hashtags. And that's essentially a way to follow key terms that you've been searching. So for example, in this screen grab, I've decided to look up media relations. So if you're in the communication school and you want to pursue a job in media, and maybe you're interested in learning more about media relations and what that looks like, what people are doing in this field, you simply type in hashtag media relations into the search bar. And you can play around with different terms. Definitely include the hashtag, don't include spaces. And then as you see, once I've typed it in the search bar, it's come up with this media relations hashtag page. And so any posts that people have made that include hashtag media relations are going to be shown. If I follow that hashtag, then these posts will also show up on my newsfeed. And so it's a way to stay engaged with content that you're interested in learning more about. Another feature of LinkedIn, as I also mentioned, is attending events. And so you can actually look for events using the filters. So here I typed in the keyword public health, and then I filtered by events. And you can do that either in these top filters or in this left-hand menu. And so here is a list of events that are related to public health. And you can go and you can look at who's attending. You can see a little bit more about what they're going to be talking about at this event. And it's a great way to not only learn more about the field, in this case of public health, but then also meet other people who are interested in learning more or who are established in the field. So another great tool for exploration. And then another feature of LinkedIn, and kind of the final one that I want to point out here in this presentation, is joining groups. And so in this screen grab, I decided to use history. So I typed in the keyword history, and then I used the filters again from the left-hand menu and then the top filters to look for groups related to history. And you can see a variety of groups came up. because history is a pretty broad subject. So we have the history enthusiast group, and then we have history and philosophy of science, and then we have ancient history. And so if you are in a graduate program and you're studying history and you want to join a group and learn more about people who share your interests in history, this is a great way to find those people, and to even learn a little bit more about, you know, what the history of and philosophy of science might look like. Any other questions? Because we're going to go to this job search next. Any other questions about what it might look like to use the search bar, to use the filters to conduct more of this career exploration on LinkedIn? Any thoughts? All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on. I wanted to kind of finish up this presentation by talking about what it might look like to conduct a job search on LinkedIn. So once you've created your strong profile, once you've engaged with the material on LinkedIn, maybe narrowed down the jobs that you're wanting to do, what does it look like to actually look for and apply to jobs on LinkedIn? And so the job application process on LinkedIn is very similar to the exploration process on LinkedIn, in that you're going to use the search bar at the top. And then you use this jobs filter, and you can find it at the top or the left-hand side. But you can type in, so for example, like I said, I'm in the mental health field, so I search mental health therapist. And I'm looking for jobs actually in Virginia, because that's where I'm from and hopefully where I'm moving. And so under this job search, you can see it's populated various openings. I would also recommend using this all filters button again. And you can apply different filters, like, do you want a part-time job? Do you want a full-time job? Do you want it to be remote? Are you looking for companies where some of your connections might work? And so there are just like so many ways that you can play around. I would encourage you to add filters, to take away filters, whatever feels right to you, and just explore what's out there. Switch key terms, use both filters. And then the final thing in terms of this job search that I wanted to highlight was this easy apply button, because I know it grabs your attention. Easy apply sounds very enticing. And so I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about what this easy apply button means so that you know how to best use it. When you click easy apply and you filter for jobs using easy apply, what happens is instead of doing a more in-depth application submission to these companies, you upload your resume, and then a snapshot of your profile is sent to these employers. And that's all they see. And so if your profile is not up to date, if it is not really fleshed out, then it's not going to be very enticing for these employers to click on and want to learn more about. Also, a lot of candidates are typically using this easy apply button. And so it's harder to make yourself stand out in the application process if you're just using easy apply. It doesn't give you an opportunity to upload a cover letter. It doesn't give you an opportunity to make a personal connection. And so I would recommend, especially as you're conducting this networking, in order to make yourself the best applicant possible, either applying directly through LinkedIn or even going to the organization website for the job opening that you found and applying directly to that organization to make yourself stand out as an applicant. Are there any questions about this easy apply? Or even the job search process in general? Okay, so we've got a few more minutes, and in these last couple minutes, I also want to highlight this new initiative that the Career Center is providing. It's a new platform. It's not associated with LinkedIn, but it has similar opportunities that you would find on LinkedIn, and it's called Loyola Linked. It's a new mentorship networking platform that's exclusive to Loyola students, alumni, faculty, and staff. It was actually just launched in January 2023, and we've been recruiting alumni to the program and currently have over 200 alumni that are engaged with this platform. Currently, this is in a stage of a soft launch, so we're kind of offering it to students. It's fully functional, but still in the early stages. And so some of the things that you can do as you engage with this platform is you can have one-on-one meetings with alumni. There's a discussion section where you can pose questions to the general Loyola community. You can also find career and mentorship resources on this platform. All you have to do is log in with your student ID. And then if you have any questions about this, Bridget Peterson is the one who's been organizing this. And so you can reach out to her in this email, with this email address here on the PowerPoint. And then if you want to access this page, you can scan this QR code, or I will post the link again in the chat. And so that's how you can access this new Loyola Linked platform. Are there any questions or thoughts about Loyola Linked, or even in general about LinkedIn and this whole presentation? All right. Well, if questions do come up as you leave today, and you're looking through this and you're unsure how to navigate it, or you have questions about how you might do networking, even like outside of LinkedIn, definitely feel free to reach out to our offices, schedule an appointment, or shoot us an email. We're happy to support you all in whatever ways that we can.
Oh, and I have just a couple really quick announcements. Actually, the graduate school is doing its own Loyola Linked page, which I believe will be ready late summer, early fall. And on Loyola Linked, everyone is like a first level connection. So it makes reaching out less awkward. So I think that's one huge advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And then at the end of the week, I will be sending all registrants the video recording. And please reach out to me if you have any topic ideas for future workshops. And a reminder, our March 16th graduate writing workshop is coming up if you're interested. And thank you, Mary. And if anyone has any questions, reach out to us. And thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you all. Have a good day. Rest of your week.
Bye.